Hello, and good morning, and welcome back to the Story Nook. Today we're going to be reading part of chapter 10 of I Rather Have a Cat Than a Harem, written by Kozuzu Kobato, and our artist is Hinano Chano, and our subtagline is Reincarnated into the world of an Otome game as a cat-loving villainess. I am still sick, feeling a little bit better compared to last time I was recording. And we're on chapter 10. We're gonna read a smidge of this until time for me to get dressed for work. Chapter 10 School. In the kingdom of Luducia, there was the Royal Academy. The majority of the students were children of aristocrats who had completed an elementary education. Commoners weren't barred from attending, but because of the school's steep tuition and rules regarding commuting, the reality was that commoners had to be either decently wealthy or have a good enough grades to receive scholarships to attend. Enrollment began at age 14. There was no set number of years a student had to attend, nor was there a set curriculum. Under the Royal Academy system, a student would leave once they had acquired the skill or degree necessary for their course of study, and the faculty approved their graduation. As a result, the timing of enrollment and graduation depended on each student. Enrollment was only required of the eldest son of aristocratic families, but there was much more they could get out of school besides the chance to pursue knowledge. As the next generation, it was vital for them to learn how to socialize and gain new acquaintance at the school, where aristocratic children from all over the world attended as full-time students or through study abroad trips. Even if the aristocrats lived far away from the royal capital, many of them had second homes there, so it was possible for them to commute. However, the sons of the royal family and high-ranking nobles were sent to live in the dormitory to expand their horizons through communal living. As a result of wanting to follow this practice, it became customary for all the boys to live in the dormitories. But there were no girls' dormitories, so female students had to either commute from their homes in the royal capital, if they had any, or temporarily move in with a relative who lived closer to the school. It was only relatively recently that the girls started attending the school at all. During Amy's parents' generation, aristocratic ladies were given an education only through private governesses, and then they would marry. Any outside education was limited to private etiquette classes. In recent years, Luducia's conflict with neighboring kingdoms had subsided, tensions in the kingdom had calmed, and the population's eyes finally turned toward education, with new attitudes towards girls' enrollment in schools. But things were not completely egalitarian. Compared with the male students, who on average would attend school for 3 years or more, female students would attend school for far less, with many only attending for 1 or 2 years. There were also many engaged female students who simply went to school until the preparations for their wedding were finished. With all the memories she had in her previous life, Amy was very uncomfortable that there wasn't any compulsory education in Luducidia. And, in the same social class at least, men and women were so unequal. But when she thought back to what she could remember of her past lives, Japan's well-regulated system had only been around for a few decades. From what her father had told her when she was a high school student, women in Japan had not been granted suffrage until after the Second World War. And until about 30 years before, the percentage of men and women who continued on to university was at most 30% of the population. Although there was likely some variation between urban and rural areas. Amy remembered learning a Japanese nursery rhyme about a girl who got married at 15, was written not even 100 years before the Heisei era, the time in which Amy lived in her past life. If she counted using the traditional Japanese age system, which considered the day of birth as 1 year old, the 15-year-old from the nursery rhyme would actually be 14. The same age I am now, Amy realized. But she still thought it was an early age for marriage, regardless. When she remembered as common sense from her what she remembered as common sense from her previous life was actually limited to a very small period of time in modern Japan, dwarfed by the long history uh, of the whole wide world. She had only truly realized that since being reincarnated into a different life. Now that there was no way to check her vague recollections of the history and politics she had learned in her classes, it was very dangerous to judge her current life based on facts that could be more appropriately be called memories. It was only natural to compare her two lives, but there wasn't any need to assign superiority. Both this world and the last had their own histories and methods. If Amy were to tackle those issues, she needed to be adequately prepared and armed with knowledge, because change would only be possible with a solid foundation. This world was riddled with sexism and human rights issues that experts in her previous life would have written award-winning editorials about. If it if this were a novel, it might have been conventional for her to passionately strive for reforms. But right now, 14-year-old Amy just accepted it as part of her new everyday life. Her attitude as a former run-of-the-mill high school girl bled through, and she just thought politics were tiresome. And we have our ellipses here. 5. Doesn't look like there's another set of ellipses within the next 5 pages. I'm not going to get through those 5 pages. So we're going to end here. Pretty much short video for Story Nook. It's mostly I have to get dressed in like 10 minutes or so, and I don't want to leave in the middle of a paragraph. Thank you all so much for being here, for watching, listening, all that good jazz. Many thanks to my Patreon and Ko-fi supporters, Kaleidoscope Chick, Tweed Tea Cakes, Axel1154, Cassie G, Jedas DS, Axel Alcaraz, Semi-Random Sevens, and Micah. Supporting me on Patreon gets you early access to videos, the unedited, uncut versions of videos, as well as seeing all my artwork early and being able to download some of the desktop images I've been designing for like desktop screensavers. So yeah, all of y'all have a lovely day. Stay safe, stay healthy, all that good jazz. Bye bye.